Hey friends, today I'm gardening with Creekside. We are going to be loading up the backyard flower beds with lots of annual color. I am going to be concentrating on two very specific, really fun annuals from Proven Winners that are going to bring us loads of color all season long. We are going to use the new Surefire begonia, and we are going to use a fantastic heat-loving yellow daisy-like flower of the high noon euryopsis. We are also going to be adding in a couple Colocasias that our friends at Southern Living Plant Collection sent us. These are really fun plants. Cannot wait to share them with you. So let me give you an overview of what we are doing and where we are doing it. I am standing on the patio because this is really going to give you kind of the best perspective of where these plants are going to go. You can probably see that I have all of my supplies laid out, but this backyard beds, there are two of them. They are cousins, I would say, not twin sisters, and we're going to plant them so that they complement each other. Down where Brenna is sitting underneath the maple tree, we're going to plant the new Surefire Cherry Cordial begonias. These are wonderful sun and shade plants. So we're going to plant the Surefires on both of the outside corners of the flower beds. So right here where Brenna is, and then as we pan ever so slightly back over here to the other side of the garden, we're going to put the rest of them right here on this outer edge underneath the cherry tree. So that way these beds will act as one massive garden and the two outside corners will be planted the same. I chose to do the Surefires because this side gets tons and tons of sun, right? Even though we have that cherry tree, the one underneath the maple does get more shade, and the Surefires can do sun or shade, so that is going to be a wonderful plant to fit in that spot. Now, the high noon euryopsis, which is a beautiful yellow daisy-like flower, they are going to go on the inside corners. So they're going to go here, and then they're going to go here. So that gives you the big perspective. So let's walk down there, and I can really share about the specific plants for you because I thought it would be helpful to see it from a distance to see what it is that we're going to be doing. So here we have the high noon euryopsis, which is a really nice, really fun, cute, whimsical, yellow daisy-like flower. This plant loves the hot sun, very drought tolerant, great repeat performer, continuous bloomer all throughout the growing season. So I'm excited to add it to the flower beds here. And then while we're here, this is the Colocasia. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that they are not at their top performance right now. That is because our sweet friends at Southern Living sent them to us, and we requested them to be sent at the time that they came. I think it was mid to late February when they came. They were giant, huge, gorgeous plants. So they've been hanging out in the greenhouse since then. So they've not been living their best life, and it's not because of them. It's just, it just is what it is, y'all. So as soon as we get these in the ground, they will be fine. So here we have, this is Waikiki, Royal Hawaiian Colocasia. Really going to be beautiful. It is a full sun to part shade, and it's going to have green and yellows and pinks in there. Really unique color palette to it. This I'm going to treat a little bit as a, probably is going to be an annual for me. It could be a perennial. It just depends on how our winters go. This past winter, it may not have made it because they are going to be perennials in zones 8 to 11. It's going to be a 3 foot by 3 foot. It is great as a container, a house plant, like by your pool, obviously in the landscape. With the Colocasias, the more water you give them, the better, the faster they grow, and the more full they are. You don't want these to dry out. So we've got drip, that they will have a dripper right on them. So they will do fantastic. So I think it's going to be really fun to have these. Cannot wait to try it out. And yeah, I mean, pretty low maintenance, like with other Colocasias. If you want to come through and take off the dead stems, leaves, I did clean them up some, but I'm sure that as we've got tons of new growth that's getting ready to come out, these are going to be really fun. Give me a nice pop of color here in the garden. So we're going to plant, one is going to go here in front of the small hinoki, right? And then the other 3 are going to go into the other flower bed. Now, let's go look at those new begonias. Let me share with you about these fantastic plants. Love these things. All right, so here I am sitting beside of these new Surefire begonias. I have been a fan of Surefire begonias for many years. This year they came out with the 2 new colors. They have the white and then the Cherry Cordial. They have it because Cherry Cordial has nice dark foliage on it, but really beautiful red flowers. Just a great plant, extremely low maintenance. Once they're established, they're pretty drought tolerant. They will be on irrigation, but I'm not going to have to be fussing over them. Beautiful. They will branch out and get nice and big and thick and beautiful. But I have used the Surefires, like I said, for many years, both in containers, in the landscape, full sun, part sun, full shade. I mean, very easy, low maintenance, and sometimes we just need really low maintenance plants, don't we? And so not only are they low maintenance, but they're beautiful and high performing. So they are going to go on the outside corners here of the flower beds. Right here, we're underneath or close by the cherry tree, and you can see that I have my Valentine's Crush hibiscus that is coming up quite nicely. That is also a red hibiscus, so this will coordinate quite nicely. This flower bed, like this corner of the flower bed, is going to be a lot larger than the other corner. You can see that I have come through and I have lifted up my irrigation, so I know exactly where it is. I will continue to do that, and I'm going to put in the black gold raised bed potting mix. This is, we've talked about this a lot this season. This is a wonderful potting mix, raised bed mix that you can plant directly in. So you could, if you have a container, you could plant directly in that. If you have raised vegetable boxes that you're going to put herbs or veggies in, you can plant directly in that. It's meant to be like a potting mix, not just a soil amendment. So what we do in our annual beds is we're coming in and filling in and putting down lots of the bags of this because it has lots of great nutrition in there. It's got aged forest products in there, compost, earthworm castings, very fertile. I did it with my planting over there by the fountain, and those annuals are just performing their heads off. The reason that we're amending this soil so much is because these beds just turned a year old, and the soil in here, not the best. It is that great North Carolina red clay. Even though we amended it, that was a year ago. It's time to amend again. So in each of these 4 corners, I am going to be amending the soil. I will use my power planter auger to dig my holes and put them in there. So what we need to do now is just get in here, get the potting mix, the raised bed mix laid out, and then I will begin placing the plants. So I've got some fun work ahead of me this afternoon. I'm super excited about it. It's a beautiful North Carolina, just some clouds in the sky, but just look at that. I mean, everything has flushed out. Look at that sky. And it's cool. I'm not sweating. It's wonderful. So I'm trying to enjoy these moments, and I have just told myself, you know what, Jenny, you have absolutely nothing else to do today, so just take your time and enjoy the time that you have in the garden, because sometimes I tend to be a little bit too project driven and task oriented, and I miss the enjoyment of just being in the garden. So today I am embracing the moment of just being in the garden with you and getting these beautiful plants in the ground. So we're gonna have some fun. right, so I have 2 flats. I think it was a total of like 20, 21, something around there, of the Surefire begonias right here on this corner. Sometimes I'll just do a little bit, like I'll put all the soil out, then I'll fertilize everything, then I'll place all the plants, and then I go back. Today I just felt like switching it up, and we're just going to do it section by section and get all of that section done until we move on to the next one. So really, I mean, it's very simple. You lay out your raised bed mix. This was at the bottom of the pallet, so the bags were very compacted, so I'm gonna have to break up some of that just because it had the weight all on top of it, and they were pretty heavy. So just break it up and then lift up my drip line so I know exactly where it is, and then I threw down some biotone. If you have the Proven Winners continuous release fertilizer, do that too. I always do that. However, we have sold out at the nursery right now. We are getting more, but we're sold out and I don't have any. And so I obviously can't put it down on here. Now, the great thing though about these begonias is they are not heavy feeders. This is not like a Super Tunia or a Super Bell where you just have to constantly feed it. When we get some of that back in, I will come through and shake it on top of the soil and all will be well. It'll be fine, but that is why I'm not using the continuous food, is because I just don't have any right now. So that is that. What I'm going to do is I have my power planter auger, and I have Jerry put the 5-inch drill on it for me. This is the drill with the heavy duty tip, because we do have compacted clay soil here, and these beds are, like I said, are just a year old, so that soil is still pretty compacted once you get down in there, and especially underneath this maple tree, because I mean, it's a tree and it has all of its roots right there. So I definitely excuse me, I definitely want to use my heavy duty tip. If you're interested on the different power planter pieces that I use, we always have that linked in our video description. And when you click on that link for the power planter, it goes to, it's Jimmy's Picks on Power Planter's website. So those are the exact same drills and the auger bits that I use. That is in that page, so you can go look those up. And so what I'm going to do is just go through, aug all of my holes, drill all of my holes, and then plant them in there. Now you will notice, I'm going to go ahead and talk about 2 things. One, these begonias are very tall. They're not really full right now. That is simply because in the greenhouse, they're in those trays, and they were very packed in close together because of production-wise. Like, we had to get them packed in there, and we were running out of space. So they're a little tall and a little tree-like. If that bothers you, it's not a problem. You can come through and just snip off the top, because then that will make them nice and flush and branch out and be nice and thick. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe I'll trim some, but maybe I won't. I don't know. It just depends on how I feel at the end of this video once I get everybody in the ground. But even if you don't do that, as soon as they get sun all around them, they will branch out and be just fine. So addressing that problem. And then also you will notice that we have half of these plants are going to be not in the Proven Winners cup. They are in just a brown plastic cup. That is because we knew when we ordered these plants, we knew exactly that these were going to go in these flower beds. When Jerry and I were potting them up, we ran out of the Proven Winners cups, and so because we're not selling them, we just put them in those containers, and there they go. Because as you know, if you follow Proven Winners, it has to be in that branded cup. So we're just going to tell you why they are not in the branded cup. It is okay. We are good to go. They are not being sold, but yes, they are the cherry cordials. And yes, so we're going to get them in the ground and move on to the next spot. All right, so we got the first section in the ground, and very happy, very happy little plants right there. And yeah, I mean, basically these were not root bound plants, so you notice that I did not try to break up the roots at all, unless they are like, the roots are completely like really tight. There is no need for you to break up those roots. plop it in the ground, bring back your soil, pack it down nice and tight, and then move on to the next plant. The irrigation is wound through here. Brenda wanted her close up. Come on, down. She's gonna get her stick. But yeah, so the irrigation is not wound in there really super tight. It's definitely not on each of the plants because it is more about in the general area. Once this whole bed is done, and I'm probably gonna wait until my daffodils die back. We're gonna come back through here and mulch it really good because that is another great way to retain your moisture. So yes, there is irrigation. No, it is not on every single plant. I don't need that. I have thick clay soil. If I were to wind it around super tight in there, then we would have a muddy, soggy, horrible mess. These are very drought tolerant plants. They don't need a whole lot of fuss. I have planted these at my mailbox for years and years and years, and there's absolutely zero irrigation up there, very dry and very hot, and they have done great. So that's the beautiful thing about these plants, that they are very low fuss, low maintenance, easy peasy. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and get one of those Waikikis in the ground because I am going to replace where my mangaves were last year and put the Colocasias there. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do that, and then we're just gonna knock out the other 3 sections of the annuals. Right, E? Okay, okay. So if you remember last year, I had some mangaves, and I did what we call a pot in a pot. So the mangaves were planted in a 3-gallon container, and then I buried a 3-gallon container in the ground. Last time it just popped right out of the ground. No, there we go. Okay, it's a little suction. So that way I was able to slide the mangave inside of this pot, and then in the wintertime, I took the pot with the mangave out. So this guy has been sitting in there. So we've got just, you know, good old red clay right there. And so what I'm gonna do is then put the Waikiki in here. Now, obviously there's a size difference here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my auger to break up this area that Brenna is inspecting. Come on, out. There you go, good girl. So we're gonna use the power planter auger to break this up, and then I'm gonna use some of the raised bed mix and kind of fill in there and amend it so that way I can put the Waikiki in here. That is probably a 2-gallon container that it is in, and this wasn't a 3, this was like a 5 or a 7. Anyway, there's a size difference, so I'm gonna make up for that. I do have drippers because I had, you know, somehow to get the water into the mangave, so I just kind of set it in the pot. This will work out really well for the Waikiki because Colocasias, like I said, like the water. And so the more water it gets, the faster it grows and the more lush it is. So once I get it planted, I'll just take this and just lay it right there at the base of the plant so that the roots get lots of water. So this is gonna be a fun little experiment because I haven't done this before as far as backfilling this hole. So we'll just figure it out together. Waikikis are in the ground. We had a total of 4 of them. So there's 3 in this bed, and then there is 1 right over here on my right side. I went ahead and placed the first set of the high noon euryopsis. They were looking a little sad. They're kind of freaking out. So I gave them a shot of water. So that's why they're a little downturned right now. They'll perk back up here in a second. But I really wanted to fill them in all in this little area right here around the birdhouse. We do have baby bluebirds in there, so Mama and Daddy are probably going to be fussing at us here in just a minute because they keep bringing some juicy caterpillars to them. But these high noons are just going to give us those sweet daisy-like bright yellow flowers all season long, all the way into the fall. I want to do that mass planting so we have those big blocks of color. So when you're looking to make a statement, you want to do multiples of the same plant, whether it's 3 of the same plant or 7 of the same plant, whatever. When you plant them together, like the same plant in groups, it makes a huge statement. So we are going to get these in. I have Alyssa here, so she came over from the nursery, and so she is going to be my assistant, and we're going to get them in the ground. But we just did, Alyssa put out the raised bed mix for me, then I came back, sprinkled the biotone, and then placed them out. These can go closer together than the begonias because they're not going to get as wide as the begonias. So I've got more plants in a smaller space than the begonias. So we're going to get this done, and then we have a section just right over here to my right shoulder of more high noons we're going to put there, and then the last of the Surefires will go on the very end. Okay, my friends, so the A-team came in and saved the day for me. Probably saved me a couple hours out here by myself, but all of them are planted. So all of the begonias, all of the high noons are in the ground. Now I do say all that would fit. So we did use all of the Surefire begonias. They are in huge mass planting. This is definitely the biggest whole planting spot of the entire area that we did today. This one and then the maple tree down there. So those Surefires are really going to fill it in. They already look wonderful in here. So they are in there, and then the high noons, those areas were smaller spaces, but with that bright cherry yellow, it's really going to make those corners pop. We had some high noons left over, so that means I get to use them for another project in another location, so that will be fun. But I'm super excited about how this all came together. I think it's going to look amazing as the whole season progresses. Now, we do, of course, like we've talked about before, we have drip in here. The drip does not go to every single plant, and that is on purpose because it would just waterlog my flower bed if I did that. You have to know, when we're talking about being a student of your own garden, if you have thick clay soil like I do, you do not need to lay down rows upon rows upon rows of irrigation. You're going to drown your plants. What will happen is, probably as soon as we get off the video here, I'm going to grab the hose and just water in. The plants themselves were nice and well watered, but I want to just kind of dampen the top of the soil. We got like 6 inches of rain last week, so when you get down in there, it's nice and damp. I just want to give a nice little surface area with some water on them. And then we can start running that drip and just keep an eye on them, and they'll let you know if they're dry. But once they get established, then they will be good to go. Super excited about this. Big, huge pops of color. It is going to look great. It's been a great day in the garden. Lots of fun, very, very productive. I hope you have found this fun, informative, and inspirational. As always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a fantastic day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends. No, we're going to start all that over again.